So are we waiting? We're waiting for Roxy.
And we're live.
We are live.
Yes, Roxy will be
Excellent.
with us in just a minute.
Okay, great. Everyone looks so nice and pleasant.
Yeah, you too. Mhm.
Likewise.
We're on our best behavior.
Right.
I don't have my red on. I usually wear it, but I'm ready for you.
Well, at least you have a cup of coffee.
Oh, this is water.
Oh, it's water.
I'll bring you some if you need it, man. This is always an exciting time of year for us.
Yes.
So you let me know when you want me to say something.
Okay, I think Roxy was going to get us started if she can get audio.
Right.
She's here.
Okay, Roxy, it's on you, dear.
Thank you guys all for coming. How are you?
Good.
Fine.
Just
Good.
Good.
All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's candidate forum. My name's Roxy Williams. I'm the Vice President and Voter Service Chairman with the League of Women Voters, Homewood-Flossmoor area. On behalf of the League, we would like to welcome you all to this afternoon's forum. Today's forum is the Homewood-Flossmoor School District 233. As a result of the COVID pandemic, we're now presenting the forum in person and unfortunately forced to host the forum virtually. We invited all candidates to participate in the forum today. Mr. Casali was the only candidate who had a conflict in his schedule and would not be available to attend today. Please note, we have asked for questions from the public in advance. We've received many questions for this forum. Our screeners have reviewed and selected the questions to be asked in today's forum. Similar questions have been grouped together, and consequently, you may not hear your question asked in exactly the same way you submitted it. Due to the time limit, we will not be able to ask all submitted questions. After this forum, this video will be available on the League's YouTube channel and the website, which is wlwvhfarea.org. It is at this time that I turn our forum over to our president, Ms. Barbara Hayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Homewood-Flossmoor Candidate Forum. Today, we will hear from the candidates running for school board for District 233, Homewood-Flossmoor High School. We are excited to meet our candidates and in some cases, reacquaint ourselves with the candidates as we have met some of these candidates in previous forums. Whether these candidates are new to this forum or here for the 10th time, we wish all of them well and hope to get to know about their ideas for this amazing school district. Candidates, I want to thank you for participating and for being interested in ensuring that our students are prepared for college and prepared for life. Audience, I thank you also for being concerned enough about our community to tune in. And with that, I will introduce Sandra Slayton, the Vice President of the LWBHF area. Thank you, Sandra.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being concerned citizens and coming out to this forum to educate yourselves and be much wiser when you go to the polls. I am Sandra Slayton of the League of Women Voters, and I will be the moderator for today's forum. I want to thank the Homewood-Flossmoor Chronicle and the Daily Southtown for publicizing this event so that you were all aware of it. And in accordance with the League of Women Voters protocol, I am not a resident of Homewood or Flossmoor, as lovely as those communities are. So I do not have a vested interest in the outcome of this election, and that's why I can be an objective moderator. I have a few statements to make regarding the League. First of all, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support nor oppose candidates for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. Our purpose is to promote political responsibility through informed and active citizen participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing your community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are very pleased to be able to facilitate this opportunity. Hosting forums like this has been a long core of activity for the League of Women Voters, and over the years, we've developed a set of protocols that will be followed today. The candidates were provided an advanced written copy of those guidelines, and they have agreed to follow these guidelines as a condition of their participation. I'll take a few minutes to review the guidelines as a reminder for the candidates, and so that you, the audience, will know what to expect. First of all, each candidate has been randomly assigned a number and will be called upon to speak based on the number they were assigned in order. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement. All questions will be asked of all of the candidates. So if you submitted a question that was pertained to a particular candidate or specific candidates such as incumbents, that will not be asked because all candidates must have an opportunity to respond to the questions. The response will be allowed, 1 minute response time will be allowed. So each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the questions. And there is a timekeeper to help keep us on track. Wave your sign, timekeeper. Patricia Jackson of the League is helping us out today with the sign so that candidates will know how much time they have left. When the response time is up, the candidate may finish his or her sentence promptly. Following questions, after all the questions are done, the candidates will be allowed 90 seconds, a minute and a half, to make a final closing statement. Closing statements will be given in reverse order of opening statements. For example, the candidate who gave the first opening statement will be the last to give his or her closing statement. One final thing, recordings of this event, either audio or video of any kind, may not be used without the express written approval of the League of Women Voters. The League will only allow audio or video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety, except by the media reporting on the event. The candidates have agreed that their organizations and supporters will not use the forum, portions of the forum, or any audio or video clips, cell phone photos, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes. Let's see, is there any more administrivia before we get started? Okay, I do want to mention that there were a couple of questions that were submitted that don't pertain to a school board. One in particular had to do with tax incentives. And that is a village board issue that school boards do not make those kind of decisions. It had to do with what's called a Class 8 tax incentive. So those kind of questions that are not appropriate for a school board also will not be answered or will not even be asked. So that's all of the administrivia and the rules. So let's get started. It is my pleasure to present the candidates. Each candidate, as I mentioned earlier, will give an opening, introduce him or herself, and give an opening statement of 2 minutes. And the first candidate is Miss Annette Rapani Bannon. Miss Bannon.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Annette Bannon, and I'm a current member on the HF High School Board of Education. I'm seeking re-election to the board in the upcoming April election. And I want to take a moment to just thank everyone in attendance, as well as the League of Women Voters, for all their time in organizing this. So would like to remind you a little bit about myself and why you should cast a vote to re-elect me to the HF board. I've lived in Homewood my entire life. My maiden name is Rapani. I went to kindergarten at Flossmoor Hills, St. Joseph's for 8 years, and then HF. I graduated in 1977. I went to Prairie State for nursing and then Purdue University. I've worked 40 plus years in nursing leadership. I worked in various local hospitals, Ingalls, Mount Sinai, Silver Cross, and I'm currently a nurse leader at Mount Sinai Hospital over the past 2 years, and I was recently a nurse manager for the interim COVID nursing unit. So in my various nursing leadership roles, my background brings a mix of financial, budget experience, hiring qualified staff, personnel experience, and ongoing quality improvement. My all-time favorite role has been of being a mom of 2 boys who also went to HF, Sean and Ian, and I'm a member of the St. Joseph Parish. I'm very passionate about our community and the concept of keeping our beloved high school the cornerstone of our community. Others will want to move here only if our schools are great. I think HF is great. However, I think all things can always be improved upon. I want to continue to be a part of the dialogue with the community to finish creating the blueprint we need to establish the environment to return to greatness. We started this 5-year strategic plan. I will continue to campaign on a platform of accountability, transparency, fiscal responsibility, consistent process, and data-driven decisions. Some progress has been made in these over the last 4 years, but I want to continue that progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bannon. Our next candidate is Stephen R. Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you very much. Thanks for putting the R in there. I didn't know we'd get the R in there today.
Yeah.
Barbara, Sandra, Roxy, the League of Women Voters, thank you all for hosting today. It's nice to be back. I'm bummed we're not in the auditorium at HF live, being able to sit together and talk, but certainly thank you guys for going through the extra effort and making sure that we have this opportunity to be together. Yeah, my name is Steve Anderson. As Sandra mentioned, I'm running for re-election to the HF School Board. I'm a 26-year resident of Homewood, married to Lori, an 89 HF grad, and have 4 boys, age 15 to 21, the 2 youngest, which are a sophomore and a junior at HF. I've spent the last 4 years as president of the HF School Board after spending 10 years on the School District 153 Board of Education. My professional career for 27 years, I've been in commercial finance and banking. So as you might imagine, I've led school finance committees as well as participating in many other committees in the school setting. My community service, a lot like folks on this call, started back in college, fundraising for St. Jude Children's Hospital, and continued after college, actually here in Homewood with the Cancer Support Center. I spent a couple of years on the Ingalls Health System Board of Directors, as well as Homewood Baseball and Softball, and many, many other volunteer organizations that I've been blessed to serve for. I look back at the last 4 years and see what we have accomplished quite a lot under my leadership. We've upgraded our fine arts wing. We staunchly defended student choice. We provided nearly $6.5 million of much needed property tax relief to local communities, or homeowners, I should say, within the community. We've continued with balanced budgets every year and strong credit ratings. We've increased community engagement and initiated a strategic planning process district-wide, allowing the community to come in and work with the teachers, the administration, and the board to shape the direction of our schools. So when Stanford and Georgetown and the Big Ten and military, trade schools, local Ford dealerships, IBEW, when they call, our graduates are prepared and they're in high demand. HF has a lot to be proud of, and I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud to be running for re-election for the 233 School Board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next up is Michelle Horath. Ms. Horath.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for deciding to spend this beautiful afternoon with us. I know it was a hard choice to decide between 60-degree weather and listening into this public forum, so we absolutely appreciate it. My name is Michelle Horath, and I am the current president of the Flossmoor School District 161 Board. I am a very proud member of the Flossmoor community and the HF district community. My family and I have lived here for 19 years. I also have 4 boys, and my oldest just graduated from HF last year. I am professionally, I am the Assistant Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at the University of Chicago. And so issues around diversity and equity and inclusion are things that I deal with every single day. I will say that as the president of the Flossmoor School District, I am extremely proud of the work that I have been able to accomplish and that my board, the board that I am a part of, has been able to accomplish as well. All school boards are work in progress, so by no means do I assume that we have finished business. Here we are work in progress, but we have accomplished a lot, and we've done that because we have been able to move forward together as a district. One of the things that I am really interested in at HF is making sure that we create spaces where we actually can have healthy dialogue and we can engage in discourse and we can collectively and together and collaboratively move the district forward. I am acutely aware that there's a lot that is before us on the other side of COVID, and I think that we are all committed to that. But one of the things in particular that I want to make sure that we are focusing on is not only how are we thinking and feeling and working towards the academic side of what all of this looks like, but more importantly, the social and emotional side, and not just for our students, but also for our teachers as well. Our teachers, and if you are a part of the 161 district, you hear this all the time. Our teachers.
Okay, I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you, Ms. Horath.
Thank you.
Watch for the signs. Okay. All right, our next candidate is Miss Cynthia Turnquest. Cynthia?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the ladies of the League of Women Voters for having me. My name is Cynthia Turnquest. And I think anyone that knows me would say two things about me. They would say that I adore my family, which includes my community, because I consider community to be an extension of family. And I'm passionate about what I do for a living. I am a 19-year resident of Flossmoor. I've been married to my best friend, Eric, for over 28 years. And I'm a mom to two wonderful sons, an HF grad and a current senior. I have dedicated 30 years in the nonprofit sector as an advocate, a communications professional, and an activist. As the Director of Outreach and Strategic Partners for the Cancer Support Center, which is a local non-for-profit in Homewood, I have dedicated over 11 years advocating for those facing one of the most challenging journeys of their life. Whether it's building partnerships and relationships to help create awareness around cancer or to generate funds, whatever it is, I'm fierce when it comes to the work that I do for my CSC family. For decades, I've worked for organizations such as Ada S. McKinley, Glenkirk, the American Library Association, where I've championed to improve the quality of life for individuals that were experiencing barriers or obstacles with few resources to overcome them. And I take this very seriously. I believe in mission. I'm just as committed to the work that I do outside of my job. I'm currently on the HFPA Executive Board. I've always been in leadership positions in both School District 161 and 233. I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, which is one of the largest public service organizations in the nation, where I'm currently active on their social action and arts and letters committee. And in short, I love my community. I want to make sure that the wonderful environment that my kids have had the privilege to grow and prosper in is maintained and thriving for those that come after them. The foundation of this type of growth, I believe, starts in the school system. We teach our children to become members of the community. And this is where we model kindness and cooperation. And I'm going to stop now because my time is
Thank you. Right, exactly. Okay, thank you, Ms. Turnquest. Now we're going to Miss Spite. Let's see. Lakeisha Spite.
Yes, good afternoon.
It's on you.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for this opportunity to kind of, get to meet everyone. It was good to come on early and get to meet everyone. And now, this opportunity to speak to the community. So thank you guys so much. So my name is Lakeisha Spite. I'm a resident of Homewood for 14 years. For education has always been a passion of mine since I was young. I remember being a teacher's assistant at age like 13. We had to go get permits and things of that nature. So when I became a mom, it was only natural for me to want to migrate to somewhere that had a very strong educational background. So this was the area where we landed 14 years ago. And now I have 4 children, and 3 of them have went through the system. 1 is still there now. I'm also a grandparent, so I really have a vested interest in this community. My daughter is currently looking for a place to stay, and she wants to stay here. So I was like, well, it must be time for me to really get involved. So I've been involved in other organizations, non-for-profit organizations, but I have never been involved in the school system besides as an employee. I have been a public school employee for over 20 years in different capacities, from a lunchroom assistant to a paraprofessional to the school secretary. I've also been the business manager's assistant, and now I'm a school social worker. So that social emotional part is a part that's very near and dear to me, and not only for the students and the parents, but for the students and the teachers, but also for the parents, and being able to give them a sense of security when it comes to the school and the safety of the school. And one of my main things is just to really hone in on equality. Equality is such a misunderstood thing, and just making sure that we all understand that. My primary goal is to be a asset to the board. Not that I'm anything special, but I have a background and experiences that I believe are unique.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. And now our next candidate is Ms. Beth Larocca. Beth?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this forum. I am currently on the HF School Board seeking re-election. I moved here at the end of 8th grade from the south side of the city, and I graduated from HF in 1976. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting. I have a master's in reading and a master's in school administration. After working 13 years in business, I taught high school for 2 years in Texas, then moved to the university level and did academic support for student athletes at Southern Methodist University. I moved back to the area in 2000, and I've spent the next 20 years working at Glenbard District 87 as a reading and business teacher, an at-risk coordinator, and a dean, retiring this past May. In addition, I've worked with many students on improving standardized test scores, more specifically the ACT, for more than 20 years. When Annette and I ran for the board in 2017, we listened to residents, and their concerns included residency issues, low test scores, high taxes, and transparency concerns. I believe we've made progress on all of them. When the students go back to school full time, we are going to hire a residency firm to supplement the 2 residency officers that we currently employ. In terms of taxes, we have abated taxes for the last couple of years, basically maintaining a flat tax rate. We've also looked at reducing expenses, and I think there's more work to be done there. Test scores, we've made a little bit of progress, but I think we have a lot of room for improvement there. And transparency. We've made progress there too, but I believe there's a greater need. As board members, as a board member, I have a responsibility to discuss at a board meeting. I ask questions at the meetings in public to make sure that the discussion is public. This has not been easy, but I believe the community deserves insight into our decisions. I am passionate about education, and I'm passionate about our community. I will continue to fight for those things and look for improvement, but I also am interested in data-driven decisions, consistent process, and I really would like us to move those test scores up, because that's what will move us to an exemplary rating. Thank you.
Okay, right on time. Thank you very much. So all the candidates have given a 2-minute opening statement, and now we will move to the questions, and we got some very good questions. Thank you, residents, for submitting your questions. So since, let's see, Ms. Bannon gave the first opening remark, we will go to candidate 2 for the first question. So the first question is, and who's candidate 2? Mr. Anderson, exactly. All right. So the first question is, first of all, a statement. No one expects more money from the state, but let's not make poor decisions on spending what we have. What top priorities would you propose for the budget?
Thank you for the question, Sandra. I think what we've tried to do, and this, dates back to my starting in Homewood in, 2007, is make sure that we squeeze everything we can out of the places we can squeeze without affecting student learning. I think we want to be able to contract smartly for our GPO purchasing, for our electricity, our utilities, things like that where we can. And we want to do the best we can in collective bargaining as well. I think not only for the teachers, which is a priority, but also for the school district, being that we have a fiduciary responsibility. I think we've done a nice job over the last 4 years of maintaining balanced budgets when our expenses continue to go up for the collective bargaining agreement that we struck with the teachers. And we're getting less money, from real estate taxes locally. So every year you have to, find out different priorities that you can affect and create changes that are necessary to maintain that balance, because your expenses are going up higher than your revenue. And that's always the challenge in our school. And I think we've done a nice job with that at HF in the last 4 years.
Thank you. Our next candidate would be candidate number 3. What would be your top priority for the school's budget?
That's a really good question. And just like my colleague there, Steve, mentioned a balanced budget, I think, board members have a fiduciary responsibility. And I firmly believe that every single year, board members should take the necessary time to make sure we are really paying attention to our expenses and our revenues. The district has spent a lot of money, but I also look at it as investments. We have spent a lot of money on investments. And one of the things that I am particularly interested in is making sure that we capitalize on all of our investments. I want to make sure that we get full use out of the amazing art center that we just invested in. Several years back, I remember when we built the field house. So, we've made some investments, and investments is not just in buildings and infrastructure, it's also in the students and the teachers who will be using those spaces. So I want to make sure that we absolutely maintain a balanced budget, and we are making sure we are spending what we need to spend, we are saving where there are opportunities to save, but more importantly, that we are reaping the benefits of the investments that we have already made. And unfortunately, COVID has not allowed us to be able to appreciate the fine arts space, but I, along with the community, is very anxious to see how we will use that. But I think it's really, really important that we use what we have and we leverage that to make our school and our students and our teachers and our entire community much better for it.
Okay, I thank you so much. Okay, moving on to, let's see, Ms. Turnquest.
Yes. So I will have to piggyback on actually both Michelle and Steve. It's absolutely the board's responsibility to be good stewards of the resources that are coming into the district and to be mindful of budget. And I do agree that the board has been doing that. The district has been responsible. If you look at the budget, which is available online on the website, anyone can pull it up and take a look at it. Our resources are going to where they're supposed to. They're going to teacher salaries. They're going to our facilities, our benefits. And they're exactly, the resources are there doing exactly what they should be doing. I think it's important for us to continue to look at this as an investment. As Michelle said, this is our investment. This is our investment in our future. This is our investment in our community. Families are moving to the HF area because of our school system. And I think that, we have to find that balance. We have to find the balance between making sure we're not sacrificing the well-being of the district with drastic cuts, but we're also being good stewards of those dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Spike, can I have your comments on the your proposals for the budget?
Well, I think one of my main things is to make sure that we are assessing everything yearly. I know that we have a new center. We had a new sports center not too long ago. And now I think it may be time for us to focus on some different areas. And I think we're doing a great job in doing that. And I just want to be an instrument to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck. I've been negotiating with school districts' behalf before with different vendors to make sure that we are getting the best bang for our buck. I want to make sure, because it is our responsibility, and make sure we're getting a bargain. So, know, when it comes to getting some different programs that will lead straight to college or to trades or whatever, making sure that we're able to get the equipment right there so the students can use it. I'm talking about top-notch computer systems and things like that, since we have those things when it comes to sports and fine arts. Just making sure that we're able to focus that in other areas, and when we're making those decisions, that we're able to get bids and things that are, you know, conducive to our spending.
Okay, thank you so much. And then finally, Ms. Larocca.
Yes, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said, but it's all along the same lines. It makes sense. But I do believe that School Finance 101 says you cut in other places before you cut anything with instruction. So that's the first thing you have to look at. And whether that's outsourcing some things to save on benefits, I think there's room for us to do that. Putting motion detectors for lights. I think utilities are a big expense too. Negotiating contracts is key. We've done some of that this year, but I think there's more we could do, and that comes from the board. I do believe, though, that we have to assess our programs, see what's working, what's not working, reinvent if we need to, and adjust, because kids change and things change and the way kids learn change. So no going into the reserves. I don't believe we should ever go into our reserves, and we need to maintain a balanced budget. So the next couple of years is going to be possibly pretty difficult.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, something you said kind of leads into the next question.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I think I need to answer the question too.
Oh, I'm
Annette?
sorry. You were
That's okay.
the first one. Yes, you're the exactly.
I understand.
You are
That's
definitely
good.
right.
Okay.
Thank you. Go right ahead,
So
Ms. Bannon.
everybody mentioned good items about the budget. I am on the personnel committee, and the biggest part of all the budgets in any industry is really personnel. So I feel like we need to be very responsible about reviewing any kind of position that comes up, whether it needs to, if it's still needed, if it can be changed, if it could be combined. I think we have a responsibility to look at that, because again, personnel is the biggest part of the budget, along with some important decisions might need to be made moving forward with the involvement of all the stakeholders to decide on different programs. We want to be sure to weigh the benefits and the risks of them, because I do think there's going to be some financial challenges, and I think the board's done a good job, and I think we will continue to do that as long as we stay very responsible. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your response. So the next question, the candidate 3 will be the first to respond to the next question. And that question is, Homewood-Flossmoor High School has made improvements in the fine arts program. What priority will you give to improvements for career and technical education programs?
I think that's an excellent question. And I truly believe that in order for us to really continue to move our district forward, we have to do that with every single student in mind, and understanding and appreciating that everybody's path is very, very different. Our goal at the high school should be able to provide our students with all of the tools that they need to be successful on the next leg of their journey. So whether they are a student who's interested in the arts, or whether it's a student who is interested in STEM or STEAM, or whether it's a student who is interested in the trade or automotive industry, it's our responsibility to be able to nurture students wherever they are and whatever their interest may be. I absolutely believe that we should be spending more time and effort and resources in making sure that every single one of our programs that support students on their journey is supported the way that it needs to be, it's resourced the way that it needs to be. We cannot move forward unless we are moving all of our students together.
Very good. Okay, I appreciate that. The next candidate is Ms. Turnquest. Your response to that question?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. I believe that as a community high school, that is our responsibility to address all of our students wherever they are. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have invested in our fine arts program, and we have a wonderful MVP program now as well. Every child isn't necessarily driven by STEM. So it's wonderful that we are able to provide resources for a well-rounded experience. And that includes our applied sciences as well. Our automotive programs, from what I understand, we are the go-to in the industry for students that are coming out of HF ready to go into different heating and cooling and electronic fields and things like that. So I think we've been doing a really good job, but we have to keep current. We have to continue to invest, and we have to continue to really be in touch with the needs of our students and the directions that they're interested in going in, whether it's a 4-year institution or whether it's a 2-year apprenticeship. Stop.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Miss Smythe, now can I get your response to that question? If anytime you want me to repeat the question, just let me know.
Okay. Could you
So
repeat it now? Let's repeat.
Sure, the
it now.
question was, Homewood High School has made improvements in the fine arts program. What priority will you give to improvements for the career and technical education program, formerly applied academics?
Yes, I think that's a very great question. And I think as we, focus on that, we can't forget the students who have IEPs and making sure that they have what they need as well. When we talk about equity, we can look from the AP students all the way to the IEP students and make sure that they're even getting the things they need when it comes to social skills. They're getting out in the transition programs. And I know sometimes I used to work at Speed, so I know we used to send kids to Speed. So making sure that we have the Speed-like experience right there at HF for all the students. I mean, we have the top notch with certain areas, and just making sure that that equality can spill over into every single area. And it may take time, not right away, but looking at each area and slowly progressing and building a plan so that we can achieve greatness in all the different academic areas as well.
Okay, thank you. Candidate 6, Ms. Larocca, your response to that question?
Yes, thank you. I believe we kind of have a plan to expand or improve and give them a little bit more room, the applied academics right now. Whether or not that will happen right away, depending on our economy and school funding, it's a good question. But we do have partnerships that we've made with manufacturing areas, and we have a lot of choice. I believe that our goal for the high school should be that every student graduates either prepared to jump into a career or go to college. And everybody has a different path, and we need to acknowledge that. I would love for us to establish something that DuPage County has, and they have a technology center for the high schools where they send schools there so that you have greater opportunities and options, as opposed to you might be limited at your high school with what you can offer because they're expensive. There used to be something in the south suburbs, there isn't. I would love for the schools to work together to create that again, maybe through Prairie State. I'm not really sure how we could do that, but that would in essence allow us to do more with less, which is what we're gonna have to figure out how to do. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you. Ms. Bannon, can I get your response to the question?
Yes.
Ms. Bannon?
Thanks for,
Okay.
yes, thanks for the question. We do have an obligation, HF, to get people life ready. Everyone is not college bound, but maybe there's a different kind of college career they'd like. The board has discussed the importance of applied academics. I know that we know that is important. There could be different trades, beautician, lots of the trades will be retiring in the future, and it's going to be important that the population kind of backfills that. There's a lot of organizations that do want to partner with HF because of the quality of our students, that they like their work ethic. The fine arts, we do have a new building for that. Technology, we already have great technology, and that's part of why we were able to be so successful at remote during COVID. But I think that looking into the applied academics, that's definitely on the radar. When that will happen, I'm not exactly sure, but that will be happening. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Mr. Bannon, I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, I don't, 1 minute's not enough for this answer, so I'm going to do my best because this is an exciting topic that we're working on. So when we expanded the fine arts department and did the rebuild over there, we moved art out of the G wing and into the old band area in the new fine arts area. That created an area where we are going to expand into. Kevin Thomas, the department chair of our applied academics and career and tech ed department, is already working with Dr. Mansfield on the different things that he wants to do. Wealth tech, auto, culinary project lead the way are already things that we do, and they're talking about how to expand those programs in different ways and also bring new and exciting programs. I think Beth may have mentioned some of the things on that front. One of the things that's exciting to me is, having a fund balance like we do and thinking about how we can expand career and tech, just like we did fine arts, just like we did athletics. Those conversations need to be had, and we're having them. And, I think as we move into, 2021 and beyond and understand what Illinois is going to do to us as far as our expense load goes, we need to be prioritizing those things to prepare the kids for the 21st century.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, and there were several questions related. This one kind of summarizes them all. The question is, and this will go to candidate number 4, who is Ms. Turnquest. Because of the pandemic, students were on remote learning for approximately a year, which was very challenging to many. What types of support systems do you propose for the curriculum to help students to achieve proficiency in their academics?
Yes, this is a great question, and actually, I feel very comfortable responding to this. Obviously, I work for a mental health organization. The pandemic has impacted not only students but teachers as well. It's families in their entirety. It's been nothing less than emotional trauma for many of us, and I think it's really important for as a school district for us to take an active role in helping navigate students back into our sort of normalcy once again. And that's really going to take a collective effort. We're going to have to provide support systems, psychosocial, emotional support systems. We're going to have to give the kids tools and resources. So those can be therapeutic services, support groups, individual counseling, and also giving them opportunities to have exercises that can help them transition in back into our normal school day again. So a minute, as Steve said, is not enough time to really go into detail, but definitely we're going to have to be at the forefront of making that happen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I realize a minute is not a lot of time, but there were so many questions. I just want to try and get an idea of what your thinking is on these issues. So I need to go to our next candidate, Ms. Spite, your candidate number 5. Your response to that question, and if you let me know if you need me to read it again.
No, I think I understand the question.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's very important as students do transition back to actually deal with the social, emotional, and be able to give those outlets that they'll need during the time when they come back to school, being sensitive to the gap that many of us have experienced. Because it's been a gap in learning for a lot of students. The remote learning setting has been very challenging, but being understanding to that and being able to give those things. I think HF is doing a great job already. I know that we have tutoring I see is available on Saturday and on Sunday. I've never seen anyone have anything available on a Sunday. So being able to know that the students are aware of those resources, because sometimes people are like, we don't have that, or we don't have this, and we really do have it. Sometimes we may miss it, but we have those things already in place, and just making sure the students are utilizing it, checking the capacity. If we only have 1 or 2 students using it, we need to reevaluate our resources to make sure that we're allocating them correctly.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Ms. Larocca, your comments, please, on that question.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to have a lot of work to do. I think we have a couple things in place. Advisory is something that HF had planned to actually start this year, but it could not because of COVID, where the kids will, it's kind of like a homeroom. I'm going to call it that because most people are familiar with that. We're going to have to look at tutoring programs, as Ms. Spite said. Were they effective? Do we need to change them somewhat? What do we need to provide? We need to assess the students at the beginning to see where they're at, and then to see what we need to do to get them back up to where they need to be. We should be looking at AP scores. Did those drop due to remote learning? What would we need to do differently to prevent that if something like this happens again, so to speak? I know that they're doing a social emotional learning program within the PE department that has been very successful. But I think we're going to have a really comprehensive plan as to how to address this.
Okay, I thank you for your comments. And now we're going to go to, let's see, who's our next candidate? Ms. Bannon. Ms. Bannon?
Okay, thanks. This is a question that is kind of loaded. There's many layers, I think, to it. I think the first thing when the students come back to school, we're going to have to really kind of take account of where they are socially and emotionally. We know that academically, perhaps people will be behind, but I think we have to first, because we've all really survived something that nobody could have predicted. So I think that their social emotional needs have to be addressed. I think that we have to put efforts with whatever needs that we're identifying. If they're for the AP kids, if they're for the IP kids, whatever layer, we're going to need to just figure out what it is that they need. They may need extra support tutoring. They may need, we do, like Beth mentioned, the advisory session that we did want to implement. I think that will help because there'll be a consistent person that they'll deal with every day. But I think that we're going to have to kind of just wait and see how the students present and monitor that and accordingly.
Thank you, Ms. Bannon.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. I would now like to hear from Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. This is a tough question, and that's right. You know, HF was ready when the pandemic hit. We had a system in place, and it wasn't perfect and hadn't been tested, but you know, we were able to tweak it, make it better for the fall. And no matter who you ask, remote learning is not ideal. So I think HF has done a decent job with sort of dealing with what it's had to. On the social emotional side, a couple of years ago, we created a position called the MTSS coordinator, which is the multi-tiered system supports coordinator, to address the interventions that our students need, which have been growing and expanding year by year. And they just got infinitely bigger with the pandemic and having kids learning from their bedroom in their slippers and their pajamas, and not being able to get that social interaction with kids in the hallways and teachers in the classroom, et cetera. Yeah, those things are hugely important. And I think the other thing that we've done, which was great, but having the kids follow through with, is building in the asynchronous time into the remote schedule to allow for the kids to have time after their school day to go see their teachers. So there's a lot of different opportunities. The challenge is making sure that the parents and the kids know that they're there and they're taking advantage of them, which creates, you know, a lot of opportunities for touch points. But, you know, at that point, I think that's where we can have some success.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And then finally, on that particular topic, Ms. Larocca.
Oh, I think it's me, Horath.
Okay, I lost my place. Okay, Ms. Horath? All righty.
Yes.
You didn't address that issue yet, Ms. Horath?
I did not, no.
You did not address that. Okay, I'm sorry. It's your turn then.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
okay. As I mentioned, work for a university, and these are the same set of questions that we are addressing at the higher ed level. I think that we can certainly make some assumptions now that we need to provide an additional social and emotional support, not just for our students, but also our teachers and our staff. We absolutely cannot forget them as part of this equation. I don't think that we know truly what the academic slippage is going to be. And so what I hope is that the time that's being spent right now that some students have returned, we're certain, you know, teachers are certainly spending time sort of doing assessments, and, you know, we will have conversations about this over the summer. But I also want to know, or also want to mention that, you know, as a board member, I am not the expert. The 7 board members are not experts in this space. And I really want to rely on teachers and their input. Tell us, you know, what are you seeing, experiencing? What are your ideas? I really want them to be a part of this process on how we get to the other side.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I have to cut you off.
Okay.
Stay within the time limits. Okay, we're going to go to the next question. I appreciate all of you and your responses, and I know I'm rushing you, but give us what you can in the time limits available. So our next question is, how is diversity, equity, and inclusion part of your vision for our school district? And we will start with candidate number 5, who is Ms. Spite.
Yes, I think all those things go hand in hand when you're trying to create community. And as some of the candidates have said, I think it's very important to realize the beauty of having a board is that it's not one person making the decision, it's 7 people collectively coming together. And we can actually get the input of others that are actually there on the front line. So I think that's the main thing when it comes to inclusion, including the people that are on the forefronts, including all the stakeholders, including the parents and the students, and actually hearing their points of view and what they're seeing, because everyone's going to see things from a different perspective. And I think when we start with that, we have to start with the including everyone and making that a reality, not just something that we say, but really including their points of view, taking them into consideration, looking at diversity, maybe even having some cultural fairs in order that we learn about each other. I think those conversations aren't very popular, but they need to happen, and we need to get to know about each other and learn. That way we're not afraid of each other. It's important that we learn different cultures and allow people to learn more about us. So those are the main things I think we can start with when we deal with that question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Candidate 6 is Miss Larocca.
Yes, thank you. Well, I believe we do a pretty good job. We certainly attempt to anyways. We have an extremely diverse student body. We have we are very diverse in terms of opportunity for what students enroll in. Equity is a measure of achievement, fairness, and opportunity in education. And I believe that we have folks in place to do that. We have guidance. We have our MTSS coordinator, our social workers, our psychologists, and hopefully they are working as a team to provide the best supports and opportunities for all kids. We have college counselors. We also have counselors that are specific to applied academics. So I think we could do better. Probably everybody can always improve. We did some diversity training with the staff over the past couple of years, maybe not so much now because everybody was focused on remote learning, but we have done that also. There's always room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go to candidate number 1, Miss Bannon.
Thank you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, obviously they're all different. Diversity refers to different identifiers. Equity kind of refers to fairness, and inclusion refers to including everyone. I think that our school probably is very well versed on all of this, and I think that we're very mindful of it. The above information is helpful for our students because our world is diverse. Our communities are diverse, and that is what the world represents. So it's important that our students are introduced to the real life concepts in the schools to prepare them for a time when they will be contributing to society at large. The concepts in the educational environment will help to set the students up for success, and our staff, of course, are key role models for this to demonstrate that they also understand these 3 concepts to work together to make the school and therefore the world a better place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson, your comments, please, sir.
Yes, thank you. I mean, diversity in thought, perspective, and background is important. And that means a lot of different things. And it's something we spend a lot of time talking about in our strategic planning process. One of the outputs of that, there were hundreds of outputs, but one of the outputs of that was to, for example, attempt over the ensuing years to create a teaching staff that is more a vision of our actual makeup within the school building. That is not where we are at right now, and it is a intent focus to be intentional about our hiring and about our cultural makeup and being a culturally competent school district. We have the training going on a daily basis. Ms. Larocca mentioned that, not on a daily basis, but every time we have our Teacher Institute days, there's always a component that is about diversity, is about equity, is about inclusion. And those conversations continue to happen with the staff, and the staff is allowed to have those conversations with the kids. And we hope that they're happening at home too. I know they're happening in my house, and I think that's the biggest end output here, is to have them happening in the home.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, I'd like to go to candidate number 3, Ms. Horath.
Yes. So diversity, equity, and inclusion are often said together, but they are 3 completely different things. And diversity and inclusion actually is a little bit easier to hit than equity. In fact, equity is difficult to hit because it's difficult to define and it's difficult to measure. And so one of the things that we did in 161 was actually create a DE&I committee that is inclusive of our entire 161 community. And we did that in part to make sure we can all start using the same language, terminology, definitions, and we can all think about what this means together. At the end of the day, equity is about access. And I think, we have to be sure that we are creating a space within the 233 district where we are really having very honest conversations about all three of these pieces to this sort of three-legged stool, but they are very different things. And I want to make sure as a district, we are just being really clear in how we are thinking about it and how we are looking at this in terms of our strategic plan.
Okay, I agree. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, Ms. Larocca.
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I already answered, sorry.
I think that's me.
Okay, is it
Turnquest.
Turnquest, correct. Thank you.
That's okay. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are critical to the overall culture and climate of any thriving community. We can't begin to discuss effective curriculum building or engaging classroom instruction or healthy social dynamics without addressing DEI. In order for effective learning to take place, students must feel that their experiences are validated, their voices are heard, and that they're represented in all aspects in the learning environment. Our school district is really a microcosm of our community, and a thriving community cultivates inclusion and strives to create an environment of unity and cohesiveness. And this instills in its members a sense of security and belonging, which are two factors that are important to promoting a healthy learning environment. So once again, these are conversations that have to be had in order for us to talk about healthy learning environments.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. All right, I have to admit that I've lost my spot here. I've lost my place because I got out of order. I called Miss Spice, I believe, out of order. So I know that I need to call on, let's see, Larocca.
Yes, you really, yeah. You start with
Okay.
me this time.
All right, Miss Larocca. And did I miss someone else?
No, I already answered the diversity and equity inclusion. So I start with the next new question.
Okay. Did everyone answer that question?
Yeah.
I got everybody on that. Thank you. Okay, so the next question starts with candidate number 6. And we're going to take a different turn here. Question is, there is a disparity in test scores across racial groups. This applies to students new to the area as well as students from District 153 and 161. How will you attempt to address this issue? Okay, and we're starting with candidate number 6, which is Ms. Larocca.
Right. Okay, thanks for the question. We do have we are fortunate in that we have a full-time data person who looks specifically at scores. I cannot micromanage and do it myself. I do believe that they should know when students are coming in, what those scores look like. Students do take tests. Well, I don't know if they're going to be taking them this year. They're not. So that's going to be we have to figure out how to address that, because not everybody's going to take that standardized test. They already registered the incoming freshmen without that knowledge. So they had to do it based on teacher recommendations and things like that. That's why I said when we come back, we probably have to assess some things. And I think we need to put some things in place. And I'm hoping that advisory addresses some of that. That's one way that we could address it. That's a difficult thing to look at without the data right away. So they may not have the data until the kids are actually already at school, just because of COVID and remote learning.
Okay, thank you. All right. So switching to candidate number 1, Ms. Bannon.
Hi, thanks for the question. It's really an important question because we know that when people go to move someplace, they look at schools because everyone wants the best school for their family. And so test scores are what people look at because that's what shows on Zillow and different websites. So going back to the question though, the first thing is an acknowledgement and an awareness that there is some disparity and a willingness to talk about it and split up the data and figure out why it's like that. I think focusing on freshmen, because people come to our school from many different areas. Some of them grew up in 153 or 161 or the different surrounding school districts, but some people didn't. Some people move here and then attend HF for the first time. So they're all at different levels. So I think focusing on the freshmen and giving them the resources that they need to be successful later on would be a start. And I think that all of them, the freshmen, for example, would all need different things depending on where they're at with their scores. So I think that the biggest thing is an acknowledgement that there really is a disparity and then taking baby steps to work on that little by little. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, candidate number 2, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think I agree. We have to, observationally understand that there's something we need to work on here, and gathering lexiles and where people are from a reading, proficiency standpoint is huge. But I think it starts well before the freshman year. I think if we're not working with our feeder districts and preparing these kids, no matter where they come from, to be proficient readers as freshmen when they show up, then I think we're doing them a disservice. I think it's important for us to work with 161, 153, with Glenwood and our other feeders to make sure that we have prepared kids. Now, that's not always the easiest thing to do, because if a child moves to our community in 7th grade and they move from a school district that doesn't have the high standards that we have, they might be behind. And the science will tell you can only catch a kid up so much. So we have to face that, but I don't think we face it at freshman year. We have to face it in the feeder schools and make sure that these kids are prepared before they step foot on campus at HF, so that we can give them the best opportunity to succeed in the settings that we provide for them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I get a response from our candidate number 4, Ms. Turnquest?
I think it's me, number 3.
You are right. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm checking too far in advance.
That's okay. That's okay.
Checking as I get to the number instead of after I call the number. Go right ahead, Ms. Horath.
That is okay. I actually agree with Ms. Bannon. I'm a data junkie, and so I actually firmly in agreement that we have to have honest conversations at the district level about what the data is saying, but also understanding that the data is not, that's one data point, right? There are other data points that we have to be looking at, not just quantitative, but also valuing qualitative data as well. But I do believe that it starts with a very honest dialogue at the board level about where we are. But I also believe that it's about better alignment with our feeder districts. We have 2 schools in 161 that reached exemplary status. And we did that because we actually started having very candid conversations about where are we, where do we need to actually provide more intervention? How do we even, start working with kids before they get into our district at the pre-K level and the kindergarten level? So I agree, it starts with conversation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Horath. Okay. All right, candidate number 4, Ms. Turnquest.
Yes, I feel like I might be a little redundant here. Feeder school definitely, I feel is one of the primary ways that we can address this issue. Obviously, we have no control over students that are transferring into the district, but we certainly have the ability to work more closely with our feeder schools. We have to do the work in asking the questions as to why these gaps are apparent, and what are the factors involved here, and what supports are needed in providing the resources in order to lessen that gap. But I also want to point out, oftentimes there's growth in academic success that's not necessarily measured by an ultimate test score. So, you know, we can bring a child into the district that might be not at proficiency level, and we can bring them up to grade level, but that's not necessarily reflected, you know, in our scoring system. So I don't want to overlook the fact that work in progress can be made. And I'm going to stop.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, and finally, candidate number 5, Ms. Spite.
Yes, I think one thing we need to do, because we do have an MTSS coordinator in that process and understanding that process, it does have a tier system, and with every tier, there are interventions. So make sure we're using those evidence-based interventions to help the students to get to where they need to be and measuring that growth. Just because they don't get where they need to be right away, make sure they're growing, assess the data, as the MTSS program already has different data points. Make sure we're actually following that process, using those data points, going back to the table, switching up the interventions as necessary. They have 3 different tiers, and then looking at how we're utilizing those tiers. Is it working? If it's not working, going back to the table and really reassessing how we use that data, and encouraging parents to take advantage of. We have that E period, and I know so many people that don't utilize that period. That could be an intervention period that we use for the people that don't want to use it, but really taking advantage of what we already have.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question. This is more of a technical question. And we're going to start with candidate 1. And the question is, school funding is a huge portion of a community's taxes. What experience do you have in managing complex budgets? So the question is, what experience do you have with managing complex budgets?
Okay, thank you for the question. My experience personally with complex budgets is I have $1 million of budget that I have for a nursing unit that I've always had. I also have had assisted to create when the Flossmoor Family Care Center, before it was built over here in Flossmoor, I helped to create the neuroscience labs there. I did leave there before it was able to be open, but I was also able to create what in Tinley Park, the neuroscience area, when that was new, and I continued to stay there. So I have had budget experience with operating and capital and recognizing the different things that go into creating that kind of a budget, as well as personnel budget, because again, personnel is often the largest part of the budget. And of course I have, 55 FTEs who report to me currently. So I'm very familiar with budget.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, your experience with managing a complex budgets.
Yeah, thank you. Again, in my professional life in commercial finance right now, I help manage a $1.5 billion portfolio, of commercial loans to healthcare providers across the country. Sorry, my dog just decided to walk in. In my 14 years on school boards, I've been in and on finance committees and leading and chairing finance committees for all of that time. We had a $20+ million budget at School District 153. I worked with Dr. Gibson, the school chief school business official over at 153, learned a lot about municipal finance and how to manage budgets, which is very different from sort of an accrual or gap basis that we handle in my banking world. And then naturally, the last 4 years, I've been involved with the finance committee at 233. And that has, created sort of a new learning curve for me and a good one as well. So I'm very comfortable in working in the systems and working with Dr. Cook and creating the budgets, working with him to create the budgets and reviewing and preparing for the levy process that is important for us to make sure we have the funding we need to run our school.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Horath, your response to that question, please, on managing complex budgets.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, I am the current board president for Flossmoor 161. And so this is a huge part of our responsibility. And it's such an important part of our responsibility that one of the things that I recommended several years ago is that we actually start this process very early each year, so that by the time we get to the point where we actually have to vote on our budget, I wanted to make sure that everybody on the board had increased their intelligence around the budget process and making sure we have ample time to dive into some of those hard questions around expenses and revenues. I also manage my own budget within the university unit that I work in, and I've been a manager managing department budgets for over 15 years now. So extremely comfortable with what I know and acutely aware of what I don't know. And I'm okay with asking for help to continue to increase my knowledge about those things.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Turnquest, please.
Yeah. So I've spent my entire career in the nonprofit sector. Right now, as part of the leadership team for the small non-for-profit I work for now, we raise our entire budget in one calendar year every year. So I am very aware of what it means to pay close attention to every nickel and dime. We are very good stewards of the dollars and cents that come to our organization. And I am definitely on the leadership team when it comes to assessing and managing those dollars. Although I am not an expert, my background is not in finance, I am very comfortable having the discussion and also relying on the expertise of those that are put in that position to be able to guide in that area. So I can definitely sit down at the table. I can definitely have the conversation, and I'm comfortable with asking the questions as well.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. Spike, can I get your comments, please, on that question?
Yeah, so my experience really started in the school business office. I worked in there for about 10 years, and that really sparked me to go back to school to get my MBA because I kind of was starting to learn about it. So it definitely is a process that I'm familiar with. I've helped manage our expenditure reports and turning all those things in with the state, from Title I to IDEA, all those things that deal with school funding. So I'm very familiar with it. I have some basic knowledge, probably intermediate, not quite advanced, but you have to be aware with the state, things are always changing. So keeping yourself abreast of the different standards and how they change, I think is very important. But I'm always willing to learn. I'm always reading up on it and trying to find new ways to improve the budget and just see different ways we can kind of manage it better.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, on this question, Ms. Larocca.
Thank you. Well, I had an accounting degree. I have an accounting degree, and I worked in business for a long time. Kroger company, some other places, closing books every month, that kind of thing. I also managed a Crate and Barrel and was responsible for that entire budget from the ground up. I have experience there. I've done smaller budgets associated with my various positions in schools. But I'm on the finance committee right now on the HF board, and I meet with the business managers and ask questions. I'm always delving into ways that perhaps we might be able to save some money or look at how we use the money that we might collect in terms of things like athletic fees or whatever it might be. Because I'm very cognizant of trying to do more with less whenever possible, and being mindful of our taxpayer dollars.
Okay, I thank you very much. Okay, we are at the 1 hour time frame. We've spent just an hour with answering questions, opening statements and answering questions. And in order to allow all of the candidates a sufficient time to give some closing remarks, there are still a few questions left, and we will probably could never get to all of them anyway. But I am going to stop the questioning at this point and allow the candidates to give their closing remarks. So we started opening remarks with candidate number 1, and we're going to do closing remarks in reverse order. So closing remarks, we're going to start with candidate number 6, which is Ms. Larocca. So Ms. Larocca, you have 90 seconds, please.
Thank you. When Annette, Bannon, and I ran in 2017, we talked about improving transparency, tightening our budget, raising test scores, and addressing residency concerns. We've made a lot of progress, but there is more work to do. I believe HF is a great school, but we can move HF forward and we can be rated an exemplary school with a little ingenuity and hard work. We need to continue to establish an environment where we get input from all stakeholders. We need to continue working on raising test scores as they affect real estate values. This may not be fair, but it's the way it is. We need consistent process and data-driven decisions. We need robust discussion at our board meetings. We need to continue working on greater transparency, as we can never have enough. We need to be keenly aware of our finances and the possible changes in the state funding and possible pension shift to our schools. We need to continue looking for ways to be more efficient in our spending. My goal is to see that every student in our communities receives the best education possible at the lowest responsible cost to homeowners and taxpayers. I believe I'm a valuable addition to the board, and I want your vote. Punch 141 for Larocca on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Candidate number 5 which is Ms. Spike. Could we have your closing statement, please? You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so even looking at the goal and the mission for HF, you know, the mission is to improve the students' academic learning experience. So I believe that I will be an asset to the board because I bring 2 very, very interesting, unique perspectives. I have a master's degree in administration. I also have a master's degree in social work. And I think those 2 aspects brings a unique view to when we're dealing with the different aspects that will come apart with the board. You know, we will have those decisions that we will need to make regarding student growth and student social emotional learning and all the academic things that will come to us. And I believe that we need to focus on the equity that comes to it, whether the student has an IEP, whether the student has AP classes, making sure that across the board, we look at and measure that the students have exactly what they need to be successful when they leave Homewood-Flossmoor School. I think the school district is already doing a wonderful job. As I said, I believe that my experience and my past will just be an asset to the district, to the board, and used to help continue to push us in a way as technology changes, as the world changes, as we continue to come account to things that we didn't expect, like this coronavirus. I just believe that it's very important that we keep our focus and allow the stakeholders to get the best service that we can provide during any time.
Hey, thank you. Ms. Turnquest, please.
Yes. I use the words partnership and collaboration quite a bit this afternoon because I truly feel that that's the heart of what a board does. It fosters healthy relationships among the experts and professionals that are put in place. And I'll be the first to say that, you know, I don't have all the answers, but what I'm good at is I'm good at finding folks that do have those answers. We have an extremely competent staff and administrators and faculty. But as a board, we must give them the tools and the resources that they need in order to be successful. And we're part of a great synergy in this district that includes not only the board, but the faculty and our administrators and community members. And most importantly, don't forget our students. So with all of us working together, for the overall goal of providing the best education and launch pad for our children as possible, there is no way that we won't be able to succeed. So I'm looking forward to being a part of this conversation, to having a seat at this table, to being able to contribute the skills and talents that I have in order to accomplish that. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Horath.
Thank you. So, you know, I am sitting in front of Zoom, in front of some amazing people who have all tossed their name to the hat to be a part of moving the district forward. I will say that, you know, education has been a part of every inch of my life. I have a master's degree in education, and in my spare time, I've been finishing my doctorate in education. I work in higher ed. My husband works in higher ed. This is my life's work, and being a part of a district and being able to contribute in this way is a profound honor. And I think our board in 161 has been very successful, in part because we have done everything in collaboration. We have worked really hard to make sure that we have an environment and a culture and a climate that is inclusive of everyone. Our voices matter, our community's voices matter, and more importantly, our student voices matter. I'm always taking a very student-centered approach in how we do and think about everything. I have a strong belief that our students can do absolutely anything. And I also believe that this district, this school has the ability to be the absolute best district in this entire state. What it takes is a strong, highly functioning board that moves together forward and not afraid of tough conversations and is committed to our kids at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. And finally, not finally, but next is Mr. Anderson, candidate 2.
Yes, I will not be finally. Thank you. Sandra, Barbara, Roxy, League of Women Voters, thank you guys very much again for putting this on. It's such a valuable resource for our community to hear from us as we approach the election season. I believe all politics should be local, like this, and that's why I do what I do. We have control, we have to control the variables and take care of each other. I sleep at night knowing that I'm asking for you to trust me with your tax dollars and expect to be held accountable on how we spend them. I know that providing exceptional choice to our students is the right thing to do. And when families see that, they will consider moving here to raise their families. We spend very wisely and we plan smartly. My vision for HF, thankfully, hasn't changed since I was first elected in 2017, and that is to provide the best education and opportunities we can to our kids while welcoming all letters of the alphabet to our school community. I plan to do that with a continued focus on student outcomes, strong, engaged staff, and administrative leadership within a well-financed, safe, and healthy environment for our kids. I want every child in our school community to have the same opportunities that my 4 boys have had, and I want our parents to be part of that process. We have to keep parents engaged with their children's education to be successful, and that has to be the standard that we expect. I take every vote seriously, and you have my word that I will continue, and I'm hoping with your vote on April 6th that you'll allow me to continue to lead through my example. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And then our last candidate, who was our first candidate for opening remarks, is Ms. Bannon.
Thank you. As a nursing leader for 40+ years, I have extensive experience in the non-for-profit healthcare field. Every day I go to work, I strongly advocate and challenge others to assure people are receiving a higher level of care despite multiple barriers. So since 2017, when Beth and I ran and were able to obtain a seat on the board, we've been very focused on consistent processes as it relates to everything. We continue to be committed to our platform of accountability, transparency, fiscal responsibility, continued processes, and data-driven decisions. So you should select me, as I will not back down from doing whatever we need to do to make HF High School the best ever. In closing, I just would like to say 2 quotes from 2 of my favorite female role models. One is from Florence Nightingale, who's considered to be the founder of modern nursing. She always said, "Were there none who were discontented with what they have, the world would never reach anything better," which is something that I do model my behavior on, that I feel like we can continue to be better. The other one is from Rosa Parks, the civil rights activist. And she said, "I've learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear." And I think too, that we just need to continue on to what makes us better despite anything. So your vote to re-elect me to the HF board would assure the community that there's a voice at the table, as well as a continued healthy exchange of ideas to have the best decisions possible. Thank you for your support. It is the change that we still need, and it's the voice that you still deserve. So punch Bannon 142. Vote on April 6th. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so very much, candidates. I tell you, Homewood-Flossmoor cannot go wrong. I mean, you're all so qualified and so dedicated and so enthusiastic about your community, which is a wonderful thing. So I thank you all for being here today, for providing this information to the community. And thanks for keeping me on track too. So I'm going to turn this over now to our Voter Services Chair, Roxy Thompson. Roxy?
Yes, hi, Sandra. I want to thank all the candidates for attending the League of Women Voters Homewood-Flossmoor area for sponsoring this forum. Many thanks to Roberta Barino for being the glue holding the team together this afternoon, Sandra Slayton for that incredible job moderating the forum, Patricia Jackson for keeping us on schedule, and a very special thanks to Barbara Hayes, Joni Scott, and Dominique Bristol, who worked behind the scenes to put the forum together, linking it to our social media outlets. As a nonpartisan organization of women, the League of Women Voters Homewood-Flossmoor neither supports or opposes candidates or political parties. Our mission is to encourage civic engagement and inform the public of major issues that impact everyday lives. Composed of these 6 of 7 candidates today, we hope this forum has helped the voters become more informed about who they wish to select to fill seats for School District 233. Questions from the public, we hope they were answered satisfactorily by our candidates. This is our first virtual event for the League, hosted in over 100 years of our history. And I just applaud the team for doing a great job. We want everyone to exercise their vote in this upcoming election. Vote early, vote by mail, or vote in person, but vote on April 6th. After this forum, the League will have this particular forum available on our YouTube channel and our website, which is lwvhfarea.org. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Homewood-Flossmoor School District 233 candidate forum. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.